Hello, I'm Bruce Sawalski. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and chief instructor of the Boreal Wilderness Institute. Today I want to add to my focus on survival gear series by tracking about summer and trail gloves. So if you like to learn real life-saving knowledge, then please support me by following me on YouTube and liking this video. So what I want to talk about today in the Focus on Survival Gear series is trail gloves. In other words, once we get into spring, once we get into summer and fall, what are we carrying? We're not going to take mitts. They're too heavy, they're too thick, and it's adding too much weight into our packs. But there's lots of different gloves around. And when it's not extreme weather, gloves are all right. So let's talk about this. These are the first ones that I have, and they'll tell you a little bit about what's good about a trail glove and what's problem with a trail glove. These, inside leather, outside nylon, straight, basic, waterproof gloves. Now, eventually they'll get soaked through because that's leather, and even if I put a little neat's foot oil, which I generally do a couple times a year, they'll soak through. But what it's doing is it's taking a layer between me and the outside environment. So extremely bad weather, raining all day long, I can put on a pair of gloves and it will add to the warmth that my body has and give me dexterity and mean that I will pass the hypothermia test, right? So remember that. For all you guys know already, this is the hypothermia test. If your fingers don't touch, you're hypothermic, right? That's what it is. I can do this right here in the classroom because I'm not hypothermic. It makes sense. My body is at its standard core body temperature right now, and I can do that. When you lose that dexterity, you're going to have problems. Now, we'll talk about that in a minute, but effectively, what these gloves are doing is protecting me from wind, protecting me from getting even more solder soaked. Eventually, they may go, but what's the advantage of using these on the trail compared to something else? Well, if you look at a standard kind of glove you might have, little fleece glove like this, what's the problem? Well, that's warmth. And at a camp in the evening in the mountains, that's not bad. But they'll get soaked through completely. Same with something like this. Right? Nice idea, a little bit of nylon on the outside, lighter thing, but that's fleece on the inside. So there's warmth. And a set of the gloves like this for hanging around camp and cold nights, that's kind of a bonus. But if I take this on the trail, what's going to happen? It's soaked. Where I want this is in a waterproof bag in with my emergency gear. So I can pull it out. That's where that belongs. That's the same if I was going to take a pair of these. These are winter mitts. Right? And so, cool idea, but they're going to get just soaked through if it's raining. They're done. Right? There's no waterproofness to them. If we're in extreme wet weather, we could go to something like this. That's a pair of boarding mitts, right? Yeah, but they'll work. And, or even something as aggressively horrible as this in bad enough weather. Right? That is a wetsuit mitt, right? Where in the world would I ever use this? Well, I use this to get through my warrant officer's course in Gagetown, right? I'm a pair of them. I don't know where the other one is right now. But there, it was so horrible with storms turning sideways on us in the water. I just put these on and said, I don't care, right? Because why? They're neoprene. And so effectively what happened is they soaked up water, but I still had dead airspace. So it didn't matter. Eventually, I still had dexterity. So even though everybody else was freezing around me, I still had dexterity. So I didn't care. I could use my hands. And in an extremely bad survival situation, which that course really was, just a whole month-long survival situation, this actually saved me, right? There it is. Now, trail gloves don't have to be that excessive. You look at a thin little combat glove. There's my new Army combat gloves. Lined inside leather, outside cloth. Little bit of waterproofness, nothing else. There, civilian equivalent to that. Are these any better than this? No. Right? How about ones like this? Same thing. Just little thin gloves. All they do is keep your contact away from the environment, keep your hands a little bit drier. And that's the same with something like this, Right, I was just trying, these have a little bit of Thinsulite insulation in them, standard little glove. Really, really slippery inside. It was supposed to be gripping, but I found it was slippery and it didn't work. Little bit of nylon on the outside. I found that nylon soaked up water. So I tried these to see, hey, got a little bit of insulation. That'll be sort of a cross between, and I tried them last fall, and what I found was they soaked up water. Right, and that was a lot of these mitts. You got to really check the waterproofness of them, or the mitt isn't really worth it. And that's the same with a thing like this. Same kind of deal. It's got a little bit of leather on the inside. It's actually leather, but the outside is a cloth made to breathe. The problem was when it started to get soaking wet, the water soaked right through them. Right, and these weren't a bad mitt in any sense of the imagination, but there it is, right? So what about that? Then we have leather. So again, we talked about this in the other ones. Leather gloves, big, big bonus, right? Why? Because they're going to stay waterproof, you can work in them, and you can do work in these gloves. So I can do all the work in the world wearing a set of gloves like this while I'm sitting around camp. Then I can use those on the trail. Now, in colder weather, I might have an insulated leather set of gloves, or I would simply grab a set of insulated gloves. And that's, you're looking at the actual stuff I would take. So I might have 3 pairs of gloves up in the mountains. Not a lot of weight. And why? Just a set of insulated gloves for sitting around camp, keeping warm. Set of trail gloves, and a real set of leather gloves to do my work. This makes a big difference to your survival. No hands, no function. Head, hands, essential clothing elements. You'll notice why I'm spending so much time on these videos talking about the essential gear. It's not going to make a huge amount of difference in terms of exactly what I change in terms of just having some fleece and that, and maybe nothing but long underwear in summer, right, in case it gets cold. Nothing else. But good rain gear, decent gloves, decent toques, going to make a huge difference. So, if you like the useful life-saving information you learn on this channel, please support me by following me on YouTube, listening and liking to other videos in this channel, and by following me on the Boreal Wilderness Institute on Facebook. So remember, thank you, stay safe, and if you're stranded in the wilderness, just stop and survive.